It's the Bill King Show, December 10th, 2022, on a lovely Saturday afternoon. And welcome in Jessica Bellamy.
Oh, what a wonderful Saturday afternoon.
It
Hello,
is.
Bill.
We're hanging out again?
Hanging out again. You know what? I was passing by Fiesta Farms.
What'd you see?
What did I smell? Oh,
What?
The pine trees.
Yeah.
For the Christmas trees are on sale.
They're out. Did you price them yet?
I was afraid to. They're probably, what, $200? Because I've seen some small ones, some like little tree tops going for like $60, $70.
I was in Canadian Tire, one of them, and it was like $300 for one of the fake trees.
Oh, yeah.
They
get you.
That's why I bought the, what I call Fiesta lights. The Christmas.
Yeah.
I do my house up in them, and you can't tell. So the house already has lights strung up, right? Mm-hmm. So don't worry about that tree.
No, because the tree is merely a conveyance for the lights. You know what I mean? So like you have your whole house to hang up to the rafters with sparkles and twinkles and color and all that stuff. So
the front porch has come in, and we have the Christmas bush.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So we lit that up,
Oh, nice.
So we did that. So what's going on in your life?
Ooh, well, the December issue of the newsletter is out, and I just have to say, it's all about volunteers. So Volunteer Spotlight.
Okay, what's the story?
What's the story, Morning
Or
Glory?
stories. Yeah.
Well, Reverend Sherry DeNovo, she was appointed into the Order of Canada. Potpourri Show receives a special honor. Kristen Hamilton of Dementia 13. She got a write-up in Shindig magazine about her short film. DJ Medicine Man, he has an after-hours set at that Psychedelic Experience.
Which you were talking about.
I was talking about last week. Yeah, so lots going on. And the first of many, many volunteer spotlights. So this is a new initiative that I started, really just to continually celebrate our volunteers and everything that they do, and for listeners to get to know them a bit more, all the voices behind their favorite programming. And the first is Brooke Blackburn, who is one of the co-hosts of Calling All Blues right before the Bill King Show.
On 12 o'clock on
12
Saturday.
o'clock, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's a great way to do it. Years ago when I was with the Toronto Musician Association in the early 90s, and I was on the board, one of the first thing I did with their publication Crescendo was to change it from being punitive about collecting dues and stuff. And I said, start doing profiles. Tell stories about people, about your membership. And it makes a difference because, we've got, like you said before, 73 shows. There's a lot to talk about here and a lot to promote and a lot to put out on the forefront.
Yeah. And, we get to learn like other little things too, like Brooks, who we'd like to interview. He has Sakira Saida, and then his father.
His father,
like to interview, yeah. And then some of his top performances that he's seen, like his methods to creating his program. Like it's just really cool stuff that you don't get to learn about every day. And
it's great because the shows are so wonderful and they're particular to a certain thing. Did you get out to?
Yes, I saw Lila Bialy.
This is the Christmas,
goodness.
the winter.
Yeah,
fest
winter songs.
Winter songs.
Beautiful. My first time seeing Lila perform, and it was such a treat.
This is at Kerner Hall.
At Kerner Hall. Beautiful, beautiful venue. First time there as well. She was joined by a surprise guest, Jane Bennett, and Larnell Lewis. And I was like,
we love
God.
Larnell.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And so it was a beautiful homage to winter. It's she wrote these songs, composed these songs while she was out in Banff last year. And I lived out west, and I visited Banff, and she took me back. She took me back to the stillness, the quietness, the beauty of the mountains and the snowfall, and it was something to behold. So
you still haven't come back.
I still haven't come back. But good news is, I do believe she will have this album out next winter.
That's right.
Yeah.
For the American side of us, Raphael Warnock won the other night against Herschel Walker. And it was a sigh of relief. I don't know what you thought. Did you watch any of that, or did this sort of come out of review?
No, I didn't watch any of it. No.
Well, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
I heard from a lot of my friends, my American friends, constantly worried about this seat in the Senate and what the difference it will make, right? Mm-hmm. And especially my attachment to Atlanta. Yours is the Jersey Shores in that area. Ashbury Park. Mine is Atlanta. So good to see. So we have a conversation. We're going to come back later in the show, okay? And we'll talk some more?
Yes.
Okay. So we have coming up a conversation with J.P. Gideon about Rock of Ages. Do you have anything on Rock of Ages there?
You know what? As a matter of fact, I do, Bill.
What, lay it on us?
Me. Rock of Ages is a jukebox musical built around classic rock songs from the 1980s, especially from famous glam metal bands of that decade. The musical features songs from Styx, Journey. I was a big Journey fan. Mm-hmm. Bon Jovi, another Jersey boy. Pat Benatar, Twisted Sister, Steve Perry, Poison, and Europe, among other many well-known rock bands. It was written by Chris D'Arenzio.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I'm going to say that again.
Go ahead.
It was written by Chris D'Arenzio, directed by Kristen Hange, and choreographed by Kelly Devine, with music supervision, arrangements, and orchestrations by Ethan Pop.
This is the first run of this. Were you a big glam rock person? What were you listening to at this time? Oh, this is your generation, right? The MTV?
MTV generation. Yeah, I was way into the Eurythmics, Flock of Seagulls. Oh, Pat Benatar for sure. Who else?
Duran Duran?
Oh, yes, Duran. Hungry like the wolf. Oh, my goodness. Duran.
I could see this.
Yeah. Oh, who else? I was into the Smiths. I did have a nice little emo side, too. The Cure. Yeah, those are the top ones.
That works for us.
Yeah.
So let's hear that conversation with J.P. Gideon. Toronto's greatest musical party is about to open at the Elgin Theatre, downtown Toronto, February 2023. Rock of Ages, one of Broadway's longest-running hit musicals, is exploding on the Toronto stage before embarking on its international tour, featuring earworm 80s chartbusters from iconic artists such as Quiet Riot, Poison, White Snake, Pat Benatar, Styx, Starship, Twisted Sister, Joan Jett, REO Speedwagon, Survivor, Foreigner, Guns N' Roses, amongst other platinum-selling artists. I spoke with CEO and executive producer J.P. Gideon. J.P. has led theatrical projects and live events around Canada, the United States, and Europe. An award-winning producer, director, and musical director, J.P. has led the updated presentation of several large-scale musicals, including Rock of Ages, Music Man, Company, My Fair Lady, Chess, Little Mermaid, Mamma Mia, Addams Family, and The Wizard of Oz. In his directorial capacity, has worked with Marvin Hamlisch on Broadway, Rudy Toronto, Broadway, David Warwick, Canadian music and theater icon. This is where that conversation begins. JP, thanks a lot for this and sharing this time with us today.
Oh, it is a pleasure to be with you, and I appreciate you making time to talk to me, actually.
With the return of Rock of Ages, had this been in the planning prior to COVID?
Well, it wasn't quite the last year, but it did come out. It came about over COVID when we were trying to figure out what kind of an offering did we think would speak to where people's hearts and minds are coming out of a pandemic. What do we need, and the rise of Stranger Things and, the nostalgia that comes out of it and all the joy that that the show actually brings. We thought it'd be the perfect thing. So we worked on it, and now we're pleased to be able to offer it.
Is this a new production from the ground up with Contained Company?
What's the difference between a Contained Company and one I put together?
A company that has already been touring, rehearsing, traveling.
Oh, I see. Yes. No, More Entertainment is a new company that came together over the pandemic to do this and to do other events and to do other sort of spectacles, etc. around. And this is our sort of opening salvo in Toronto, if you will.
Is there a precise February date set now?
Yeah, February 23rd is opening.
Can you tell us more about the casting for this?
Again, this all kind of happened over the summer. We put out a large national casting call to the entire country, literally, and got submissions from actors, both very well-respected professional actors who've been around a long time, as well as people who want to get into it and people who are just rockers from all around the country. And we went through all of those submissions, tons and tons of them, until sometime late in the summer, early in the fall, we ended up casting our show completely. And we have an incredibly powerful cast of some very heavy-hitting Canadian talent that we're going to be very proud to showcase on the stage.
It's what's called jukebox music, specific to the 80s.
Completely specific to the 80s. It's actually, in its own way, it's a jukebox musical. So it's got a lot of the top chart busters from the 80s, from like Quiet Riot and Poison and Whitesnake and Pat Benatar and Twisted Sister and, REO Speedwagon and Survivor, Foreigner, Journey, Bon Jovi, you name them. So that's all of some of the biggest names coming together to create an incredible score.
You've presented so many great musicals over a lifetime. Music Man, Company, My Fair Lady, Little Mermaid. Is there one that you would call that great shining moment?
From the ones in the past that I've done?
Yes.
One of the moments I love the most is when we had our hands on Mamma Mia. And we worked on it very hard. And what we did is when we presented this particular one, we had kind of reimagined it because Mamma Mia had been around for so long. And a lot of its versions were very similar because, very often you have replica versions of the original. And when we re-envisioned it, it was such a huge success and the audience loved it so much that was a bit of a crowning moment for all of us that worked on it. So what we're trying to do with Rock of Ages is that same kind of a thing where we're trying to re-envision it and bring a new version of it. Like you've never seen a Rock of Ages like this one kind of a thing, where we're going to try to bring out some of the themes that are really relevant to us at this time, stage it in a very unique and different way, and bring about an offering that is really relevant to where we are today. And maybe we can bring back some of that crowning moment that you're asking me about and do it now for Rock of Ages.
That'd be good. I see Marvin Hamlish's name here.
And that was Marvin Hamlish and I met down in New York. I was working on a particular production and he was also working on it. And I was able to watch him work, learn from him quite a bit, hear many of his stories. He was a remarkable man.
And your background? I mean, you don't just walk into this. I mean, you have an extensive background in music.
I do. I have an extensive background in music as well as in theater, performing in many theaters around the world, including New York and in Europe. I've done some producing, many shows. I've also done many productions that were trying new things. I did a Wizard of Oz once that was trying to combine film and theater all at the same time, which was very, very interesting. I've also conducted many orchestras around Canada and other countries, but my deep love is musical theater, and my deep love also is trying to find a way of presenting musical theater in a revived, fresh, modern approach that we haven't seen yet. So we're going to really try to pull some of that out in Rock of Ages, and that of course brings all the departments together: scenic design and music and lighting and choreography and storytelling. And once we piece it together into like a cohesive sort of work of art, that is a thrilling moment for all of us on the show.
And Elgin Theaters is wonderful for that.
It's a beautiful
Isn't
space.
It great?
And it's beautiful. This gorgeous vaulting, red and gold ceiling. And it's also a heritage building. So you can kind of feel the history when you're in there. So we're very pleased to be able to put on sort of a nostalgic show in a historic setting.
Now, Mark Camilleri is your music director?
Yes,
conductor?
He is.
Okay. And he's did plenty of these too. A lot of these musicals.
Oh yeah, Mark is a paragon of musical direction. He has done everything under the sun and has worked with everyone, and it's such a pleasure to have him on board because his wealth of knowledge and his capacity and his musical ear is excellent. So, within a few moments, he's already making incredible decisions and finding a way to honor the 80s vibe, but still make it like 2022, 2023, right? How do you play 80s music that honors that nostalgic feel, but really is powerful to our ear today? And he's got this thing down.
And finding the right guitarist.
Yeah, but there is
this is guitar based,
right?
Yeah,
just a lot of shredding the whole time.
No, this is a big part of it. Whoever gets that gig is going to have a blast.
Yes, there is, and I do have to tell you that the way the show is planned is that at least the lead guitarists, both of them, are sort of part of the show. You get to see them. They're not hidden in a pit, right? They're coming in and out so that they could join in the activity because they're such an integral part of what's going to happen.
The choreography and clothing, or the fashion and the styles, is unique to the 80s. This is a challenge itself.
Oh, it is totally the 80s. So get ready for, the mullets and the leather jackets and the fingerless gloves and the leg warmers and shoulder pads and blue eyeshadow and all of that, smudged lipstick and all of that phenomenal stuff that we remember. And it's funny how glamorous and nostalgic it is today. We look at that, we're like, oh, I love that stuff. I remember I was around back in the 80s. It's funny how it's come back around with a glamour that back then we just took for granted. So, here it is bringing all of its life back. And to the choreography you were asking about before, I mean, we have the incredible Sean Cheeseman from So You Think You Can Dance and MTV Music Awards and, Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson and all the work that has been done, Bodyguard, etc. And he is an incredible talent. And I think that this particular musical, because of where it is in time, also hits him in a place where he could bring all of his gifts to the stage. And we have actually cast the show in a way where we've got some phenomenal dancers for him to work with. So we're expecting that to be a real highlight also.
And this is also the MTV generation, that bands that we got on MTV had to have a look, a style, or some kind of movement about them, right?
Oh yeah, it had a swagger, right?
Yes.
So I don't think it surprises anyone that our choreographer is an MTV award winner, right?
There you go.
We went there for a reason.
JP, thank you so much. And I'm sure out there, everybody's looking forward to this. A great time for all.
As am I. I really appreciate the time. Come on by and see it. Look at rockofagestoronto.ca. Tickets are on sale now. They're kind of flying off the shelves, so grab them for Christmas.
And how long is it booked for?
It'll be in until May 20th. So February 23rd to May 20th.
That's a good run right there.
It's a good run. And then we're going to be embarking on an international tour after that.
Okay. Best to you. And thanks so much.
Great to talk to you. Thank you, sir.
All right, you too. It's Gloria Martin on Entertainment. It's Gloria Martin on Entertainment. Hello, Gloria.
Well, good afternoon, Bill. And it's a beautiful day, kind of. It's been very wintry, has it?
I think it's been quite pleasant. It's almost like early November weather.
I'll take it.
I've been out and about on my feet, on my bike, and it seems like we're playing like we're going into early spring.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
we deserve it.
Yeah. So good week for you?
It was a good week. We had a huge tree fall down during the windstorm, and we watched the hydro crews. We were out of power for about 6 or 8 hours, and the giant beech tree fell on the hydro wires. So we watched the crews with a crane lift this gigantic tree off the wires, try and pull the wires out, and then they had to replace a wire which had snapped in half, which was the main hydro wire, and the live end of it was sitting right on our walkway. So we opened the door, and the hydro crews looked at us and said, "Don't come out, go back in."
This is like a good binge watch,
It is. It was better than TV, actually. It's amazing what they did. And hats off. They did a great job. We're lucky in the city. The crews are fantastic.
They get out real quick, don't they? So you've been out and about.
I have, and I've been actually seeing some interesting things. First of all, I wanted to tell you about a new TV series on Netflix. It's called Wednesday, and Wednesday's Child is full of woe. It's from executive producer and director of some of the episodes, Tim Burton. Perfect. A new take on the Addams Family. And Morticia is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, Gomez by Louise Guzman, and Christina Ricci makes an appearance. Longtime Tim Burton collaborator, and she's a teacher at the school Nevermore, where she also played Wednesday Addams in the 1993 movie with Raul Julia and Angelica Houston. So this series is delightfully morbid, funny, and amusing. I thought it was going to be just a sort of teen thing, but it's actually a great story, a murder mystery, and really fun writing. It's just delightful.
And it quickly found an audience. It's in the top, 3 on Netflix?
It's doing well. Young actress Jenna Ortega, who plays Wednesday, is fabulous.
Yeah.
She makes you laugh, and she scares you a little, too.
Gloria, I stuck with it and finished all 10 episodes of The Offer, the behind-the-scenes and making of Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather.
Yeah.
So that was mass insanity. That was so much fun. And I didn't realize the whole time that Matthew Good was the same Matthew Good from The Americans?
Yeah. He's a good actor.
You would not know this. No pun
intended.
You would not know this at all. And he plays Robert Evans, and then Miles Teller as Albert S. Ruddy, who's the producer who was born in Montreal, grew up in New York City. And a great Coppola by Dan Folger. Also, Barry Lapidus, who was the head of Paramount at the time, by Colin Hanks, is just killer. So it's a great cast. It's wild. It's crazy. And like I said before last week, the reviews are trending upward now by the critics, and the audience, they're up at around 9.7. Pleased with this.
Sounds good. I can't wait.
Yeah, get on it. So, all right. What else?
Well, you and I had some fun this week.
We
caught the sneak preview of the Leonard Cohen Everybody Knows exhibit at the Art Gallery of Ontario. And boy, what a treat that was. It's such a collection of his prints, his photos, his scribbles, his drawings, his personal writings, all multimedia. You can sit in the room and watch his concert. It's a very intimate exhibit. I mean, you almost feel like he's there. It's a very special thing. And I think that people who are diehard fans are just going to love this. I bumped into a journalist from Montreal, Sophie de Rocher, and she claims to be his biggest fan. She goes to his grave every month in Montreal on Mont-Royal. And, the Jewish tradition, you put rocks, little stones on the gravestone. She said when she goes every month, there are always stones and often flowers and bottles of wine. There's never nothing.
She had to be in the press conference sitting in front of us. There was a young woman with a laptop that mimicked everything that was said.
Yes, I think that was her. Yeah, she's lovely.
I kind of figured that. You and Leonard Cohen, where do you stand?
Was lucky enough to see his final tour. Jean and I went, and honestly, it's one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was like going to church. It was so special, so very, very special, very wonderful. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is going to be nice. It turned out to be extraordinary. And so glad I went before he passed.
Well, what's fascinating is I think the immersive exhibition pretty much documents that this guy had a blueprint for his life, and he followed it. He kept notes. He took Polaroids, photographs, everything.
Yeah, they probably even still had his pencils. I mean, the girl packed.
He was.
But yeah, and how wonderful to have the foresight to do that.
Now, the conversation you had with who?
Yeah, Julian Cox is the deputy director and chief curator at the AGO, and I talked to him about the archive and how he put it all together and what people can expect when they go to see the show.
Well, let's hear that conversation.
fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Everybody knows.
So, Julian, fabulous exhibit. Where did the idea come from to do this? Are you personally a super Leonard Cohen fan?
I'm not a super Leonard Cohen fan, but I am fascinated about how an icon of Canada, how did he become an icon, and what was the infrastructure to put this incredible career together, initially as a poet, writer, and then later as a singer-songwriter. What sort of fed that extraordinary creativity over multiple decades? So that was really the impetus of putting this show together.
And you're calling it Everybody Knows. What's the significance of the title?
Well, it's a little play on words because it is the name, of course, of a great song from 1988. It was part of his I'm Your Man album, which is one of the great albums that he produced. But a lot of people within Canada think they know who Leonard Cohen is, but what this exhibition seeks to reveal are many different aspects of Cohen that have never, ever been shown publicly before, because the majority of the objects in the show are from his personal archive, which of course was a private body of work until he deceased in 2016. That material was never made public during his lifetime for very intentional reasons. But it was put together with the idea that folks in posterity would have a chance to explore and perhaps begin to understand the breadth and range of his contribution as an artist, and not just an artist of literature, but also a visual artist. And this exhibition shows for the very first time photographs, drawings, prints made by Cohen in a sort of very rich and broad context that shows you how those activities intersected with his career as a singer-songwriter.
What will surprise people within those artifacts?
All sorts of things. I mean, just his love of drawing from the very, very beginning. I mean, he thought of drawing as one of the most fundamental parts of his daily routine. His love of the camera. Of course, he loved to be photographed, but also make photographs. And from the mid-'60s onwards, he owned all sorts of different models of Polaroid camera and used the medium of photography as an instrument of self-examination. That all poets and writers are sort of mining their own life experience for their subject matter, but Cohen also used photography and drawing as media that would feed his larger body of work, and most of that material has never been really seen before by the public. A few examples have been reproduced in various publications of his over the years. I mean, 1964 book of poems, Flowers for Hitler, was the first of Cohen's books to be illustrated with some of his own drawings, but then he didn't really do it again extensively until the publishing of the Book of Longing in 2006, which has a lot of his later actually digital drawings, because he was fascinated by the computer and digital technology and was an early adopter of the Apple Mac and used tablets to create digital drawings, and some of those are in the exhibition as well.
As we're on CIUT, the University of Toronto radio station, there is a connection with Leonard Cohen and University of Toronto early on in his career. Is that right?
It's a very important connection with U of T, because Cohen sold the earliest sort of tranche of his papers to U of T in 1964. One tranche was transacted in 1964 and a second one in 1966. And then later on, other bodies of material have been deposited at the Hebscher Rare Book Library at U of T. So it's an extraordinary repository for students of Canadian literature and those that are sort of passionate and knowledgeable about Cohen too. And we have borrowed a selection of fabulous materials from U of T that are also part of this exhibition. But the lion's share of the archival material comes from Los Angeles, which is where he sort of lived and worked for the latter part of his life. And those materials were held in his custody until his decease, and then they passed into the family trust, who are one of the collaborators with us on this exhibition.
Fabulous. Now, the title everybody knows. What's the thing that everybody doesn't know that they might learn about Leonard Cohen from this exhibit?
It's a great question. I think, first of all, just his sort of the interdisciplinary nature of his creative inquiry across multiple media. But one sort of small example I would give is that most people don't know that Cohen was a great appreciator of guns, because he, his father was an important military officer and served in the Canadian Army in First World War I, and died when he was just 9 years of age. But that left with Cohen a sort of lifetime fascination with militarism and war and conflict. And so he took himself to Cuba, for example, in 1961 on the eve of the Bay of Pigs affair. He took himself to Israel in 1973 during the Arab-Israeli War. He was sort of fascinated with militarism and conflict, and of course part of the infrastructure of that is the gun, and that was something that he was fascinated by. So Cohen is interesting because he's not, most people I think wrongly classify him as a bohemian artist, but in a way he was fairly mainstream, quite conservative, and his sort of love of the gun and fascination with the gun is one example of that. So there are many other examples I could give in the show, but that's just one that I think most people would be surprised by.
How many dimensions are there to the exhibit? It's the music, film. I mean, how many different aspects are there to this particular exhibit?
Well, there's multiple media that are presented here, but there's audio, there's film, there's photography, drawing, printmaking, and then ephemera and everyday artifacts. Even the key from his house on Hydra, the small island of Hydra. His family owned a property there from the early 1960s, and we have the front door key, the old front door key of that house, which was a very important place for Cohen. It's where he wrote his second novel, Beautiful Losers, that was published in 1966, and it's a place that his family still returns to today. So, there are all kinds of wonderful objects and artifacts that are part, humdrum things that are part of everyday life, but nonetheless sort of make up, a human life.
Would you say that seeing this exhibit makes you feel like you're more intimately acquainted with Leonard Cohen?
I hope so in some ways, but I think when you are dealing with a sort of personality and a figure in terms of their accomplishment of this scale, it's very difficult to go to touch all aspects of someone with such a range of creative exploration. So what we try to do, the curatorial process, it naturally involves selection, and so what we try to do is to bring before our public an exciting selection of objects that will allow for everybody that visits to find their own Leonard Cohen through the exhibition.
Fabulous. Thanks, Julian. It's a great exhibit.
Thank you very much.
So who would have thought that Leonard Cohen would have an interest in guns? That is really surprising. I have lots of little surprises in that show, but that one's really shocked me.
Yeah, it was different, wasn't it? Who would have known?
Anyway, that's on at the AGO until April, so lots of time to see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the show runs till April.
Gloria, great stuff, as usual.
Yeah, good stuff too, Bill, and keep watching and looking and living and learning. See you next week.
Okay, you take care. It's Hebscher on sports. It's Hebscher on sports. Welcome home, Mark.
Thank you, Bill. I was gone for a week, but it's nice to be back in Canada.
We just missed you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It was not.
We didn't know how to fill in while you were away.
Stop it. What did you do, by the way? I didn't...
We just... John Gallagher came in and took your spot.
No shit.
No, I'm just bullshitting. I thought I'd throw that in there. No. So golfing, this is the adventure. You drove down to the Carolinas.
Right. Pinehurst, North Carolina is the cradle of American golf.
Okay.
A fellow by the name of Donald Ross back in the early 1900s from Scotland, and ended up going to this place because the people that are putting the resort and everything together said, we want you to make golf courses, make like the golf courses in Scotland. And he put beautiful golf courses together, and the whole area is just gorgeous. It's all those tall pines, right? And with the biggest pine cones you've ever seen. Like I hit a golf shot that hit a pine cone and exploded this pine. It's a massive pine cone. I'm telling you, the size of like a pineapple. I kid you not. So it's really, really lovely there, and we had a good time. It's expensive. If you add the 30-odd% that it costs for, on the exchange, it's pretty expensive, but really lovely, like really beautiful. And they've got 9 golf courses as part of Pinehurst. 9. Which one of the courses would you like to play? There are 9 of them. Had a great time. And then hours after we left and drove out of Pinehurst, somebody shot up 2 transformers, Bill.
Yes.
And wiped out this part of Moore County in North Carolina, and wiped out 45,000 people, wiped out power for 45,000 people in Moore County, North Carolina. And we were just there. So I'm thinking, I said to my girlfriend, Serena, imagine if we were still staying there and it was costing us a fortune. And there's no power.
Oh, my goodness.
We'd be out of there like in 2 seconds. And it got cold there, too. But it was a great trip. And the drive down was a real adventure. Driving through the hills, I guess it's the Blue Ridge Mountains.
That's right.
Of West Virginia.
Yeah.
Like spectacular. And if the weather's bad, harrowing. But we managed to, the weather was pretty good for most.
It's a beautiful state. Once you get through West Virginia, you don't see any mountains again like that until you get down to Tennessee and the Smoky Mountains.
Smoky Mountains, yeah. All part of that range there. That kind of, if you want to head south and you don't want to have mountains, you got to get over to I-75 from Detroit and Toledo and down through Ohio. And you don't see any mountains there. It's a flat, but it's a boring drive. Takes you less time, I guess. That was a bit far west, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. We saw this one traffic jam, and it was on the Sunday of the Thanksgiving long weekend. So by the Sunday, everybody's heading home, and we're driving along. We're heading south, and we see this traffic north coming, like unbelievable traffic. Oh, it was like Sunday afternoon, and there's a tunnel that you go through a couple of them in West Virginia and Virginia, like a 1-lane or 2-lane tunnel. And there was a traffic jam. There was something that happened in the tunnel. There was an accident or a car stalled. I don't know what it was. But we're driving, and we keep driving for 20 minutes, and all we see are cars backed up heading the other way towards this tunnel. And we're like,
my goodness.
Can you imagine being in this traffic? And there's nowhere to go. There's no exit. You can't even get off the road to go to the bathroom there. Like, you're stuck.
I equate driving across Ohio like driving across Ontario.
Yeah.
It's just...
No,
it's just nothing there.
No, nothing.
It's not the same.
Southwestern Ontario, especially.
Brittany Griner was released a couple days ago.
Good. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. But that to me wasn't like a huge story. I mean,
in its way, it is a huge story because of the war going on and the possibility of her serving that 9 years.
Well, they exchanged her for a terrorist that's in a U.S. prison, right? So that happens a lot.
Yeah, but this one had something behind it because of where we're situated with the war in Ukraine, and her being a one-time star of the WNBA, and there's like a human interest story there. Mm-hmm. So it really piqued your interest, I see.
No, it didn't.
No, to the baseball meetings.
Well, I mean, the fact that Aaron Judge got, they offered him $30 million. They offered him $210 million for over 7 years during the season, prior to the season last year. All right? They said, okay, we want to get something done before the season starts. So prior to last year, which was his final year, and, he was eligible for free agency, they said, look, we'd like to give you an extension of 7 years, $210 million, $30 million a year. And he's like, Mike Trout's making $35 million. Yeah, no, thanks anyway. And so for the whole season, he's like, he'd rolled the dice. And what does he do? Come on. MVP, almost wins the Triple Crown, and of course sets the record. So now, like, the Yankees are like, oh my God, we got to offer him another $10 million a year. Now we got to give him $40 million a year.
That's right.
And they, apparently what happened was the owner or someone had called and they said, listen, or his manager, Aaron Boone, called and said, look, do you want to be a Yankee? And then the owner, Hal Steinberg, do you want to be a Yankee? And he went, yeah. And he goes, okay, so what needs to be done? He goes, well, we need a 9th year. Got to be a 9-year contract. And, okay, let's work it out. And the story in the New York Times was that Hal Steinbrenner, the owner, said, all right, Aaron, you want to be a Yankee? Let's make it happen. What needs to be done? And the owner and Aaron Judge, the two of them did it. And this guy he's already a Yankee legend now, and he will be forever. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, 9 years. Ooh. Man, the guy's 30 years old. That's a long deal. But by the same token, he'll make that money and then some if in the next 3 years the Yankees win a World Series.
And he'll put people in the seats. That's
not a problem. But the point is that even if after his fourth year he starts to really decline, it'll be worth it for the Yankees. You've got to pay, years 6, 7, 8, and 9 are not expected to be big years for Aaron Judge. I mean, if it is, great, if he's 36, 37, 38. But, you want him in his prime, but he's 30. You're talking between 30 and 33, 34 maybe. And then you start to slow down. You can't play the outfield as much. You end up being a DH, stuff like that. But good for him.
But Pujols.
Good for him. And he's a nice guy. Everybody says it.
Yes.
He's got no black marks against him. There's no, right? It's all.
And
good.
then it looked like the Giants were going to be there.
Well, yeah, but even
they were in play.
Like there was even a reporter from the Giants reporter, Susan Slusser, who said, word around the Giants is they're getting ready for Aaron Judge. That's the talk around the Giants executive. Now, when people tweet stuff like that, you're like, oh,
I'm suspect.
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
Same as the people in Toronto who are like, oh, the Jays are going to sign Cody Bellinger this weekend, which was 4 weekends ago. And who are these people and who are your sources?
I see this stuff nightly on YouTube, and it's always a trade rumor, especially for Toronto,
Well, of course, that's what we hear. But
Kyle Lowry's coming back.
Every other team has the same thing. It says, we're Toronto-centric here. We don't know what they're saying in, Orlando. We have no idea. They're probably the same thing. They're going after the same players. They have the same problems. We need scorers. We have injuries. We don't know defense. They're all looking at the same. Of course, we only hear it from, like the baseball one's the best is, Brandon Nimmo. As if the Jays are the only team interested in Brandon Nimmo. The Mets want to re-sign him. Everybody wants this guy.
They certainly do.
But what did the Jays do is they went and traded Teoscar Hernandez before solidifying their outfield. In other words, they traded him thinking, well, we're for sure going to get like a good free agent outfielder or an outfielder in a trade. Well, guess what? As of now, your right fielder is Kevin Biggio. The way I look at it, right? Your center fielder is Springer.
Yeah.
Your right fielder is Biggio, and your left fielder is Lourdes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who else is out there right now?
Yeah,
not enough.
No.
Laughed at. You're going to get laughed
no
at.
offense there.
And you're not going to replace Bo Bichette at shortstop. So he's your shortstop, whether you like it or not. So let's hope he improves on his defense. But you still have catchers that you can trade. But are you trading for pitching? You're trading for outfield? Are you still going to sign a free agent?
In what order would those?
Got to have an outfielder. Got to have an outfielder.
Yeah,
your pitching isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Jordan Romano just won the Canadian Baseball award for Tip O'Neill Award for Best Canadian, which is fine. It's all well and good, but I don't know. We'll see.
Justin Verlander going to the Mets?
Yeah, he's going to be reunited with Max Scherzer. The two of them, one's 40 and the other's 38 or something like that.
That's
great. Good. Yeah, Mets. There's another. The owner of the team, Cohen, I think, is the richest owner in all of baseball or sports. He's several billion or whatever, and so he's got no issues with spending the money. And look at the Yankees. The Yankees already have 3 players that are on $300 million contracts. 3 of them. Yeah. Stanton, Garrett Cole, and now Judge. And that's huge. So the Mets have got to keep up.
They're in play, though.
And they are definitely in play.
Oh, they're in play. Raptors, I don't know.
Well, Raptors are, there's some pretty good basketball teams out there. And it was going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight.
Really tough.
But last year at this time, people were like, maybe they should tank. And meanwhile, they played a lot better than I think people thought. Yeah. So injuries are always going to be a part of this. Fred VanVleet is just, he gets pounded a lot, man. He takes a lot of abuse out there. But when he's on fire and he's leading that team, I like this team. So I wouldn't count them out. They're going to get better. Scotty Barnes gets better every game, when he's healthy.
We miss Precious, though.
We definitely miss Precious.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching the Lakers game the other night.
Yeah.
That what a difference another guy with big size and that plays great D and rebounds. They're missing that.
You know what? Injuries are so much a part of professional sport.
Everybody.
Look at the Buffalo Bills just lost the best pass rusher in football, Von Miller. He's out for the season. And people are like, oh, my God, now what are we going to do now? when you're missing like a key player like that. Like when your quarterback goes down, a lot of times you're dead if it's the quarter. Forget it. Unless the backup quarterback is a really solid player. But, you know, when you lose like a player on a team sport like that, you know, a rush end specifically out there to harass the defense or the quarterback, and he's out, you're like, okay, well, the same thing if you lose your point guard. Or you lose your top scoring center in hockey or your number one goalie. This happens a lot, more often than we think.
Every team
goes through it at some point during the season.
That's right.
You got to have depth. Happens. You got to have depth. You got to have good luck. But that part of the journey is, you know, half of it is like stay healthy. Like I remember following Bill Walton just going, just stay healthy. Can you stay healthy
please?
And he stayed healthy for one season, and they won the NBA title, Portland. And every other year he had foot injuries or, you know, ankles or feet or toes, whatever it was. It was really sad because you were just, and it was like, it's like this with George Springer with the Blue Jays. You've got your fingers crossed that he doesn't get hurt. Right? Because once a player's injured, look at Mickey Mantle. I keep reading about Mickey Mantle. My dad said, you should have seen this guy before he had his knee problems. He could run like a jackrabbit. Yeah. Incredibly fast. And then, you know, Bobby Orr. You know, so you see the sad story of what injuries do to how great could so-and-so have been had he not been injured.
Oh, Jackson. Oh, my God.
The list goes on and on and on. Yeah. The smaller list are the guys that got through their careers basically unscathed without any major injuries.
Cal Ripken.
Well, yeah.
Man, what a story. Yeah. All the way across. There's a great doc coming, and it's called If These Walls Could Sing. I know you love music. This is Mary McCartney's new Disney original documentary on Abbey Road Studios.
Nice.
When you enter a place with so much history around it,
it's heavy. He's my brother. Take one.
It's kind of sacred in a way. People want to come here. They want the sound of Abbey Road.
My name is Mary. Abbey Road Studios has been part of my life for as long as I can remember.
So many massive records were made here. People don't believe that it was just done by accident.
We're trying to get better with things like recording.
This was our home. We spent so much time here. We had used a particular... There it is.
From classical to pop, artists are inspired to push creative boundaries within these walls.
What are you doing? It's murder. I can't keep it up.
It was in the forefront of one of the biggest musical changes.
The smell of Abbey Road, actually the smell of fear. Am I going to mess this up?
A huge part of my record collection was made in this room.
There's been a year of despair for the record industry. 60s bands just aren't selling records anymore.
We stayed empty for month after month.
Something had to be done. We needed to move into another area to survive. Who doesn't want to do Star Wars?
Suddenly it was like opening a Christmas present. Abbey Road, it's a gift to music.
When we made Dark Side of the Moon, I thought we've cracked it.
If it hadn't been for him, we'd have made like 3 albums.
It encourages you to make something moving.
The walls are saturated with great music. You know, if these walls could sing.
How do you like this?
I love it.
91 years old this studio is.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And just think of the artists that were either session people. Jimmy Page was a session player.
Yep.
As was Elton John in the early 60s.
Yeah. Elton John, I think, produced one whole side of John Barleycorn's album.
John
Baldry.
And
John
Rod
Baldry.
Stewart did
and Rod Stewart did the other side, right?
Yeah.
But he was Reg Dwight. He wasn't credited as Elton John. It ain't easy, right?
Yeah, it ain't easy.
Fantastic.
Wasn't that great?
Oh, so good.
Well, you go up on the mountaintop and you look out across the sea, and you know there's another place perhaps that a young man could be. And you jump down to the rooftops and you look out across the town, and you know there's a lot of strange things circulating around. It ain't easy. It ain't easy.
And I think a Canadian singer, Kathy McDonald, or something, was singing background on that.
Yeah, well, John lived in Dundas, Ontario. He lived before I lived there.
Yeah,
before I lived there. But there's still some stories going around town about yeah, man, we had Long John Baudrillard. Don't let no bougie woogie on the king of rock and roll. Living in Dundas.
But just think of the fantastic history, and then it comes to a time after the British invasion is over, right? You've got Shirley Bassey was in there, Liam Gallagher, Pink Floyd, and all these bands. And then the studio kind of went dead because there's so many studios around the world. Then Star Wars moves in. And then it becomes the Film Center.
Cool.
So I can't wait to see this. Last up, you were playing trivia the other night at Sneaky D's. Oh, man, give us this story.
Sneaky D. Yeah, so they we were doing it during COVID. We would do it, via Zoom. But live is way more fun, no electronic devices, none of that stuff.
Now, what kind of trivia is this? Is
it's
everything?
Pop culture, sports.
Pop culture,
okay.
every,
all kinds of stuff like that. So, like last night, there were, they had basic questions about, what's the number one ingredient in Hush Puppies, and they play some songs, and you'd have to name the title and the artist. There were advertising slogans like "Nothing runs like a blank," or "You're in good hands with blank," stuff like that, right? And then so the last one was, songs, and you had to name the song and the artist, okay, And then the bonus was, what did all 10 singers, singers of the previous songs, what did they all have in common?
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting that.
And you would know something like this.
Well, the correct answer was they were all left-handed because it was.
But why would you know this?
I don't know. But the first song was a Nirvana song, so It's Kurt Cobain, so he's left-handed. And the second song was Dick Dale and the Deltones, right? Surf music, right? And so he's left-handed. And then the third one was like the last one was Jimi Hendrix, Paul McCartney, Lady Gaga, so Phil Collins. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think after about the third one with Dick Dale, I went, wait a minute, they're lefties. I think that could be the common thread. Anyway, that answer ended up winning. We won the whole thing.
That's great.
We won the entire thing, our whole team. Yeah,
that's a lot of nachos.
Man, but it was fun. It was fun, and you get dirty looks from people. How did you know that? How did you know that? How do I know that? Because I know silly, stupid things. This is the way my mind works.
Yeah, it's great.
What do they all have in common? Because people are going, oh, they're all blues. They're all born in Britain. They're all born in January. They're all Virgos. They're all, whatever. Their parents were all famous. You come up with a million things, and I was like, no, they're all left-handed.
That's the best.
Because when someone asked me about a baseball or hockey player, that's so and so. I go, no, it's not because he caught right-handed. Or no, that's not him. He was a left-handed batter, or he was a right-handed shot, or this photo was inverted. It's got Stan Musial batting right-handed. He was a left-handed hitter. Stuff like that.
Know this stuff.
Yeah.
Mark.
Left-handed guitarists. For 200, please, Bill.
Welcome home. Great to have you back.
Thanks, my friend.
It's so good to hear from Mark Hebscher and Gloria Martin. Big Leonard Cohen fan?
I was eased into Leonard Cohen fandom when I became a Canadian citizen. I do admire his breadth of work. He's quite prolific. He's quite the poet. Yeah, tell me about your adventure into the exhibition.
Well,
right?
I've already talked about it.
Yeah, you did.
I left at the Gloria. Oh, it's quite wonderful. To mount something like this at the AGO is costly. I can't imagine the money that was spent on this, but he's one of those iconic figures that left a trail. There's a lot there. I mean, have you documented most every day of your life? Have you left a trail? This guy's was remarkable.
Yeah.
Polaroids, notebooks, films, lots of Super 8 films, a whole life documented. Yours would be on VHS.
Mine would be on VHS.
Yeah, so I figure.
Oh, you know what? I kept all of my journals, Bill. I have all of my journals.
And what would you write about?
Oh, just anything and everything. Like I started journaling probably when I was like 10, 12 years old, and it became a practice for me way through my 20s. And I've kept every one, even calendars and like personal schedules and things.
Yeah.
Also because I'm a little OCD, so I never threw anything away. But that would be quite an exercise to go back and reread some of those. Yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah, just everyday things. Probably a lot in my early 20s about like my ex-boyfriend. and
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like living, going to university and being away from home for the first time, living in Philadelphia, coming from a beach suburb to a
metropolis.
A metropolis, yeah. So that was definitely a culture shock. But yeah.
I started doing that probably in the 60s. I had a red book, and I kept all the addresses and phone numbers, and I still have that book.
Oh, nice.
And I can open it, and there's Janis Joplin's address and phone number. There's so-and-so, this jazz musician's address and phone number in Greenwich Village. And it's kind of a trip to look at.
Oh, my goodness.
Basically, I kept a notebook with lyrics because I was songwriting. So there's lyrics there. Not a lot documenting what I was doing, right? Others kept a daily log.
But were your lyrics, were they indicative of like what was going on?
Absolutely. I was ticked off.
Yeah.
I was always ticked off. In fact, it's so funny. There were a few of us that used to write letters to the Toronto Star all the time. Mendelssohn Joe, I know, was one, and somebody else. But we were into politics, right?
Yeah.
And this was back before this whole thing with assassinations of government leaders. We were assuming who the bad guys were. We didn't really know, but we would write letters, right? So it was Guatemala, Argentina, the generals, or Pinochet in Chile. Terrible things were happening. We would write about it and write to the Star. And then the CIA came out and said, yeah, we did that, but we did that to protect our country. And you went, okay, you just took the air out of my balloon.
Yes.
We knew you did that. So why did you hide it, right?
Why did you hide it? Oh, my goodness.
Or then there were those extraterrestrial sightings. I didn't write on that, but there was a lot of people that believed everything, and then other people didn't. It was all the other sides. It was the paranoia. It was conspiracy stuff, right? So you kind of like, at that age, you sort of walk a fine line between all of it.
Yeah. And try to educate yourself as much as too, right? Especially when it comes down to your own government, like perpetrating all these crazy things. And here you are harboring, even today, right? You're harboring like these resentments towards certain regimes and things like that, until like, oh, wait a minute. That was our doing.
Right? But it's out in the open now.
Yeah, it is.
Then it was cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
Right? But now it's always out in the open because you can't conceal this stuff anymore. But everybody talks and information spreads quickly.
Yep.
Anything else going on in your life?
Ooh.
What are we missing?
Well, I've decided to take up a New Year's resolution.
Let's hear that one.
Especially because this one is prescribed by experts, by doctors.
Okay.
So it's about prioritizing sleep. So
you have this issue with sleep, right?
You know what? I've as of late, I've had an issue with sleep, and feeling like, oh, I'll leave it off to the weekend to sleep in on my Saturday, my Sunday, but Monday through Friday, got to get up early, do this. But no, they're saying instead of like, you can't store sleep, you know what I mean? Store rest. So the best thing is to add like 15 minutes to your sleep time every day, because sleep is linked to all types of health concerns, like your blood pressure, blood sugar, what you choose to eat every day, how you interact, your mental health. So sleep is important, and you should prioritize it. So I'm like, thanks, doctors.
Yes.
Thanks, experts.
Yes.
I will do that in the new year.
Now, that's one of my best assets, is I can sleep.
Oh.
I go down, I get up. I go down, I get up. And I do get 8 hours.
Do you like a nap? Do you ever nap?
Yes, sort of. Sort of. Somewhere around 4 o'clock, I may lay down for a few minutes.
Yeah, that's a nice time.
And recharge a bit. Look at me. I need to lay down. Hey, great being here with you.
Same here.
Jessica, fantastic. You want to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone. Until next week.
Yeah, getting closer to that magic day.
Yeah.
What day is that?
Ooh.
January? Christmas.
Christmas, yeah. Ooh, will we be on, is Christmas Day on a Saturday? Will we have our broadcast
Let's
on
check
Christmas?
that out. We'll know by next week.
Yeah. We should plan something special.
It's the Bill King Show, CIUT 89.5. A big thank you for all who tuned in to Bill King Show. We'll catch you on the other side.